The sky above the alien planet turned black without warning. Thick clouds rolled fast, like a living wall. The wind screamed across the empty land. Lightning cut the sky again and again. The storm had come early, and it was far stronger than expected. The human, named Ethan, ran as fast as he could. His breathing was heavy. His boots slipped on the wet ground. His ship had crashed hours ago, far from the main base. His radio was dead. He was alone on an unknown world. Behind him, the storm chased him like a monster. Ethan saw a small metal structure ahead. A temporary shelter, old and damaged, half buried in the ground. It was his only chance. If he stayed outside, the storm would kill him. At the same moment, from the other side of the shelter, an alien girl ran toward it too. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes were large and shining in fear. She wore a torn combat suit from a powerful alien race, a race humans feared. Her name was Lyra, though Ethan did not know that yet. They reached the door at the same time. For 1 second, both stopped. Human and alien stared at each other. Enemies. Stories of war filled their minds. Training told them to fight or run. Then the wind exploded around them. A massive wave of air threw them inside the shelter. The metal door slammed shut by itself. The storm howled outside, hitting the walls like fists. Inside, the shelter was dark and cold. The power lights flickered weakly. Sparks fell from the ceiling. The walls shook again and again. This place would not last long. Ethan slowly raised his hands. He did not reach for his weapon. Lyra pointed her energy blade at him, her hand shaking. Her breathing was fast. Her people were taught that humans were dangerous, wild, and cruel. Neither of them spoke. Another loud crash hit the shelter. The floor moved under their feet. Dust filled the air. The storm did not care about their war. Lyra suddenly fell to her knees. Blood leaked from her leg. She had been injured while running. The blade slipped from her hand. Ethan froze. This was the enemy. He should step back. He should protect himself. But the storm screamed again, louder than before. Slowly, Ethan walked closer. He took a small medical pack from his belt. He knelt down, keeping his hands open so she could see. Lyra watched him closely. Ready to fight, Ethan pointed to her leg. He spoke slowly, using simple words. You hurt. I help. For a long moment, she did not move. Then the shelter lights went out. Total darkness. Only the storm sound remained. In the dark, fear grew stronger. Every shake felt like the end. Something heavy moved outside. Something big. Ethan turned on a small emergency light. Its weak glow filled the room. Lyra was still there, still watching him. Carefully, Ethan wrapped the bandage around her leg. His hands were steady, even though his heart was beating fast. Lyra felt confused. No human had ever helped her before. No enemy should act like this. The shelter shook violently. A deep, low sound echoed from outside, almost like a growl. Ethan looked at the wall. Whatever was out there was not just the storm. The shelter's screen flashed on for 1 second. A warning message appeared. Structure failure 30%. They were trapped. Together. Human and alien. Enemies by blood. Strangers by fate. Outside, lightning struck the ground so close that the entire shelter jumped. Lyra slowly lowered her weapon. For the first time, she stayed close to the human, not because she trusted him, but because she had no choice. And Ethan knew one thing clearly now. If they wanted to survive this storm, they would have to face it together. The shelter was dark and cold. The storm still raged outside, shaking the thin metal walls. Dust fell from the ceiling, mixing with the rain pounding on the roof. Every sound seemed louder in the small, broken room. Lyra sat on the floor, her blue skin pale under the weak emergency light. Her leg hurt badly, but she refused to cry out. She held her energy blade across her lap, ready to strike if needed. Her people had always taught her to fear humans, to attack first and ask questions later. But now, sitting next to one, she felt something strange: confusion, unease, curiosity. Ethan knelt across from her, checking the bandage he had wrapped around her leg. The shelter was small, and the air smelled of metal and wet dirt. He could hear his own breathing and hers, fast and uneven. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Neither spoke. The human finally broke the silence. His voice was calm but soft. "Storm. Strong. Wait." Together. Lyra tilted her head. She didn't understand all his words, but she understood the meaning. She lowered her blade slowly. Her hands shook slightly. A loud crash echoed through the shelter, making both of them jump. A wall panel had torn loose and fallen to the floor. Dust filled the air. The shelter groaned like it might collapse at any moment. Ethan pointed to a corner and gestured. "Sit." "Safe." He pulled a small crate toward them, covering it with a torn blanket to make a tiny shield against falling debris. Lyra hesitated, but finally moved closer. Hours passed. The storm continued. Outside, the wind screamed like thousands of wild animals. Inside, silence dominated except for the occasional thud or creak of the shelter. Ethan offered Lyra a small heat pack. He placed it against her leg. She stared at it, confused at first, then slowly accepted it. The warmth seeped into her skin, easing the pain. She had never felt kindness from a human before. Her species had told her humans were cruel and selfish, but here, one risked his own life to help her survive. A sound from outside made them both freeze. Something large was moving through the storm. Its heavy footsteps shook the ground. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. Her people had always told her about storm hunters, creatures that hunted during storms. Most aliens never survived an encounter. Ethan looked toward the wall where the sound came from. He picked up a piece of broken metal pipe and held it tightly. "Stay behind," he said simply. The creature roared outside. The walls shook violently. Dust fell like rain. Lyra instinctively reached for her blade, but Ethan's steady presence made her pause. For the first time she felt hope. They worked together silently. Ethan used the light of his emergency lamp to blind the creature through a broken panel. Lyra, learning quickly, threw a small object toward it. The creature hesitated, growled, then retreated slightly into the darkness. For a moment, silence returned. The storm continued, but the immediate danger had passed. Lyra looked at Ethan, her eyes wide. She wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. He gave her a small, encouraging nod. Simple human gestures, but they meant more than words. Hours turned to night, and the storm showed no sign of stopping. The shelter would not survive forever. Outside, the world was chaos. Inside, the human and alien sat closer, sharing space, sharing warmth, sharing unspoken trust. Neither fully trusted the other, yet but both realized one truth. Alone, they would die. Together, they had a chance. Suddenly, a faint signal appeared on the shelter's damaged screen. It flickered, showing alien ships nearby. Lyra's face went pale. She stared at the screen, conflicted. She had to choose, obey her people, or survive with this human who had saved her life. The screen went black again, leaving them in darkness, listening to the storm and the distant growls outside. For the first time, Lyra felt fear, not of the storm, not of the creature, but of what she might have to do next. Ethan knew something too. Their survival depended on choices neither of them had ever faced before. The storm had not stopped. The wind howled like a living beast, tearing through the broken walls of the shelter. Rain and debris flew past every opening. Lightning split the sky above, flashing the chaos in harsh, white light. Ethan and Lyra crouched close together, listening. Outside, a heavy, uneven thud echoed. Then another, and another. The The storm beast, a creature Lyra's people feared most, was moving closer. Its steps shook the ground, each one a reminder that they were not alone. Lyra's eyes widened. She clutched her injured leg and her blade, trembling. Hunt. U.S., she whispered. Her words were broken, but the fear was clear. Ethan stayed calm. His heart pounded, but he forced himself to think. Humans had survived storms and monsters before. He had survived ship crashes and alien worlds. Now he just had to use his mind. Not muscles. Not weapons. His will. He looked at the broken metal around the shelter. A loose panel. Sharp edges. A fallen crate. Ideas formed. He grabbed a piece of metal and held it tight, showing Lyra how to use light and sound to scare the beast. Follow me. Simple. Careful, he said. Lyra nodded, though fear made her hands shake. She watched closely as Ethan positioned the panel near a broken window. Then he shined the weak emergency light against it, making it reflect in strange angles. The movement and light confused the creature outside. A loud roar made the walls shake. The creature was huge, bigger than any human or alien she had ever seen. Its glowing eyes pierced the dark storm. Its teeth were like broken rocks. Its claws dug deep into the wet ground. Ethan whispered, "Now." He threw a small crate toward another broken window. The crash and noise echoed. The beast hesitated, confused. Lyra took a deep breath. She remembered her training attack only if necessary. Instead, she threw a small, heavy object from the floor toward the creature's shadow. It growled again, stepping back. The storm roared around them, but the beast finally retreated into the darkness, disappearing into the rain. Lyra's legs shook. She sat down heavily, her energy blade falling beside her. She looked at Ethan, disbelief in her eyes. "You, human. Fight, scared?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Fear. Normal. Fight. Must." For the first time, Lyra felt respect. Humans were not just fragile creatures. They faced fear head-on. Their courage was not in their strength, but in their will to survive. Hours passed in tense silence. The storm still raged outside. The shelter creaked and groaned as the wind hit. Both of them were exhausted. Both of them had learned something about the other. Lyra finally spoke, softly. "You save me." Ethan shook his head. "We survive. Together." Outside, the storm began to slow. The rain fell harder, but the wind lost some of its force. The night was darker, quieter, but still dangerous. Suddenly, the shelter's small screen flickered to life. Faint images of alien ships appeared in the distance. Lyra froze. Her people were searching for her. She looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with conflict. Could she betray her own people to survive? Could she trust this human fully? Ethan glanced at her, sensing her fear. "We move. Dawn. Together." The shelter trembled again. The storm beast might return. Or worse, her people could find them. They shared one long, silent moment, understanding the truth. Survival was no longer just about the storm, or the creature, or even the shelter. It was about trust. And trust between a human and an alien enemy was the most dangerous yet the strongest weapon they had. The night continued. The storm continued. But for the first time, Lyra felt a strange hope. And Ethan knew one thing clearly. The storm outside was deadly, but the real battle had just begun. The storm had slowed, but the air was still heavy with rain and tension. The shelter was battered, walls bent from wind and lightning. Outside, the alien landscape glimmered in wet darkness, silent except for distant crashes from fallen debris. Ethan and Lyra sat close together, catching their breath. Lyra's leg was wrapped in a bandage, but the pain made her wince every few seconds. She glanced at Ethan, still calm despite exhaustion. The human had become a strange anchor in the chaos, a protector she had not expected to trust. Your people? Lyra asked quietly, her words broken but clear. Ethan shook his head. Earth. Gone. Only me. His voice was soft, almost distant. He told her about the crash, about losing his team, about fighting through storms on alien worlds. Lyra listened, eyes wide. Humans survive disasters, yes, but Ethan's story showed determination beyond simple survival. Lyra swallowed. My people. Teach humans weak. Cruel. Ethan nodded slowly. Some. Yes, some. Not humans. Survive, hope, will. She stared at him, confused. The lessons she had learned her entire life, humans as enemies, weak and selfish, clashed with the reality before her. This one human, helping her, saving her, fighting fear. It was something no textbook could explain. The shelter groaned under the weakened storm. Every gust shook the walls, every crack made their hearts jump. But for the first time, they spoke freely. Words were simple, sentences short, but meaning was clear. Lyra explained her people's fear of the storm beast. How it hunted during storms, how survival was rare. Ethan shared how humans faced storms, predators, and impossible odds with determination and hope. Not weapons, not aliens. Just will. The storm outside slowed further, revealing glimpses of the alien horizon. Water pooled on the shelter floor. Broken panels let cold air in. Their temporary safety would not last another night. They could wait here and die or venture out into the storm-torn landscape together. Ethan's voice was quiet, but firm. We go. Dawn. Shelter. Fail. Lyra nodded. Her blue skin was pale, her heart racing. She knew Ethan was right. To survive, they would have to move together. Not just side by side, but trusting one another in ways neither had done before. Then a faint signal flickered on the damaged shelter screen. Alien ships. Not far away, searching, scanning. Lyra froze, fear washing over her. Her people were closing in, her mind spun. Should she obey her people? Should she return to them and leave this human behind? Every instinct told her to run, to hide. But something in Ethan's calm, determined gaze told her another truth. Humans fought not just for themselves, but for others. Even for aliens. Her hand touched his, almost instinctively. He looked at her, understanding without words. Together was their only chance. Outside, the storm continued its slow retreat, but danger was everywhere. Fallen trees, jagged rocks, and the unknown that waited in the darkness. And now, her people, alien warriors trained to kill, were searching. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. I help. You survive? Ethan nodded. Together we survive. For the first time, Lyra understood the meaning of human strength. It was not in weapons, in claws, or in power. It was in courage, in will, in choosing to act even when fear screamed otherwise. The night stretched long and silent. The storm outside seemed quieter, but inside, two hearts beat fast, bound by necessity and a strange, fragile trust. They were enemies once, strangers. Now they were partners. Survival demanded it. Hope demanded it. And in the dark, amidst the broken walls and battered metal, a fragile bond formed, one that could change not only their fate, but the fate of the galaxy. The first light of dawn barely touched the alien horizon. The storm had faded, leaving a wet, broken landscape behind. The shelter was a ruined, twisted metal, shattered panels, and water pooling in every corner. Ethan and Lyra stepped carefully, each movement slow, alert, and measured. A faint hum reached them. Alien ships. Far in the distance, their shapes glimmered through the mist. Lyra's heart pounded. Her people were searching for her. If they found her with a human, death would be certain. Her mind raced. Duty to her species, or survival with the human who had risked everything for her. Ethan noticed her hesitation. "Ships, close," he said. His tone was calm, but his eyes scanned the horizon for danger. "We move fast, together." Lyra looked at him, her blue skin pale in the weak morning light. Her training screamed obedience. Her instincts screamed fear. But somewhere in the space between them, she felt something new: trust, respect. A fragile bond formed in the storm, and the darkness. Her comm device beeped softly, flashing a message from her commanders. They wanted her back. They expected obedience. Her people demanded loyalty. Following orders meant leaving Ethan behind. Following her heart meant rebellion. She swallowed hard, hands trembling. "I lie. Them," she whispered. Ethan gave a small nod, understanding without needing words. He had faced impossible choices before. Humanity had always survived because humans chose courage over fear, will over instinct. And now, Lyra was making that choice too. The alien ships drew closer, scanning the broken landscape. Lyra activated a small device and sent a false signal, redirecting them away from their location. It was a small act, but a dangerous one. If her people discovered the deception, consequences would be severe. Ethan stayed alert, scanning the horizon for any movement. "Good job," he said simply. "We survive." Lyra's gaze softened. She realized what she had done. Not only had she saved herself, but she had saved the human who had saved her. For the first time, she understood the meaning of sacrifice, not for her species, not for power, but for someone else. They began moving across the wet, broken terrain, careful and quiet. Fallen trees and jagged rocks slowed their pace. Every shadow seemed a threat. Every sound made them pause. The storm may have ended, but danger lingered in every corner of the alien world. Lyra's legs still hurt, and she leaned on Ethan when the ground became too rough. He didn't complain. He simply adjusted his pace, carrying the weight when necessary. Her species had trained her to rely on herself only, but now she realized that relying on someone else didn't make her weak, it made her stronger. Hours passed. The alien ships did not return, and the landscape slowly became less threatening. Lyra stole glances at Ethan. He was human, flawed, tired, but unbroken. His courage was not in power or weapons. It was in his will to keep moving, to survive, to protect. For the first time, she felt a strange admiration. Humans were different from what she had been taught. Not weak, not cruel, brave, strong in ways her people could never understand. And then, a low rumble made them stop. Dust rose from the distance. Not the storm, not the ships. Something else, something unknown. The world remained dangerous, but together, they faced it without fear. Lyra whispered, almost to herself, "I trust you." Ethan nodded, a faint smile on his face. "We survive together." And in that moment, amidst the ruined landscape and fading storm, two enemies had become partners. Trust had replaced fear. Courage had replaced doubt. The dawn painted the world in pale gold. The storm had ended. Alien ships may return. The unknown awaited. But humanity and the human's will had proven that even in the deadliest storms, courage and trust could change the future. The sky darkened again, though the storm had been thought gone. Clouds rolled fast, black and angry, swallowing the pale light of dawn. Winds began to scream across the broken landscape. Rain fell in sheets, sharp and cold. The world was alive with chaos once more. Ethan and Lyra moved carefully, stepping over jagged metal and fallen rocks. Lyra's legs still throbbed, slowing her down. She leaned heavily on Ethan, who adjusted his pace without complaint. Every step was dangerous, but they had no choice. The ruined shelter was behind them. Safety lay somewhere ahead, but it was far, uncertain, and exposed. The first roar came from the distance. A storm beast, bigger than before, appeared on the horizon, moving through the rain like a shadow of death. Its glowing eyes cut through the storm. Its massive claws dug into the wet ground, sending splashes of mud into the air. Lyra froze. Fear gripped her chest. Come. Again, she whispered, voice shaking. Ethan kept moving, his calm presence steadying her. We run. Together, he said. His voice was firm. His eyes scanned every movement, calculating, planning. Humans survived storms and monsters by thinking, by willpower, by refusing to give up. The creature roared, and the wind seemed to answer, carrying the sound straight at them. Ethan grabbed a broken metal pole and waved it, making himself appear larger. Stay close, he shouted to Lyra. She did, leaning on him, trembling but trusting. Humans fought even when afraid. That was what she was learning. Courage was not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. The ground trembled. Lightning struck nearby, sending a flash of blinding light across the storm-torn land. Rain pelted their faces. Mud clung to every surface. Ethan pushed forward, step by step, using his strength and will to keep moving. Suddenly, Lyra tripped on a fallen beam. Her leg gave out. Ethan grabbed her instantly, lifting her into his arms. No, leave. You, he said simply. Her heart raced. Never had anyone risked so much for her. Her species prized strength, power, and independence, but Ethan carried her not because he had to, but because he chose to. Human strength was not in muscles alone, it was in will, in courage, in sacrifice. The storm beast lunged from the distance, and Ethan held Lyra tight, moving toward higher ground. Each step was an effort, each breath a challenge. The ground was slick, and the wind nearly knocked them over. But he did not stop. He refused. Humans always fought, no matter the odds. As they climbed, debris flew past. Lightning struck dangerously close, and thunder shook the world. Ethan's legs burned, his arms ached, but his will drove him forward. Lyra watched, awe and fear mixing in her eyes. Humans, she realized, were more than survivors. They were unstoppable when determination burned inside them. Finally, they reached a small ridge, high enough that the storm beast slowed its pursuit. Rain hammered around them, but for a moment they were safe. Ethan set Lyra down gently. Both were drenched, exhausted, but alive. Lyra's voice was soft, trembling, but filled with understanding. You strong. Human. Ethan smiled faintly, shaking mud from his hair. Will. Strong. Always fight. For the first time, Lyra felt hope that went beyond survival. Hope that humans could endure the impossible, that courage could face any storm, that trust could bridge even the deepest divides. The storm raged on, but it had met resistance it had not expected. Two beings, enemies once, now side by side, proving that courage and will could outmatch fear and fury. And then, lightning struck near them again. Ethan stumbled, exhausted, and fell to his knees. Lyra rushed to him, leaning on him as he caught his breath. Even in weakness, he had fought. Even in fear, he had led. Humans were not perfect, but their will was unstoppable. The storm had finally ended. The sky above was pale blue, streaked with clouds that glimmered in the soft light of dawn. The alien landscape was battered, trees uprooted, metal debris scattered, and the ground torn by rain and wind. But for the first time in days, it was quiet. Ethan and Lyra stood on the high ridge, looking down at the shelter they had escaped. It was destroyed completely, metal twisted, walls gone. Nothing remained of the place that had once been their only refuge. Yet they were alive, Both were soaked, tired, and battered, but alive. Lyra's legs still hurt, and her hand brushed against Ethan's as he supported her. She had never felt so vulnerable, yet so safe. Her species had trained her to fear humans, to see them as cruel and weak. But this one human had changed her view entirely. He had shown courage, determination, and the true power of the human spirit. A hum in the distance drew their attention. Small ships appeared over the horizon. They were human rescue ships, not the alien soldiers she had feared, not the enemy her people expected her to find. They came quickly, engines cutting through the mist, ready to help. Lyra's eyes widened. She realized she had a choice to make: return to her people and face punishment, or step forward with the human who had risked everything for her. She took a deep breath. "I stay," she said quietly. Ethan nodded, a faint smile on his tired face. "Good choice." The rescue team landed, and Ethan helped Lyra into the human ship. She looked back at the horizon, at the ruined world and the path they had crossed together. The storm had been relentless, the alien beast terrifying, and her people merciless, but humans, she realized, fought for more than survival. They fought for others, for hope, for courage in impossible odds. Inside the ship, Lyra spoke softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "Your people. Strong, human." "Strong." Ethan laughed faintly, a tired but genuine sound. "Will. Strong. Always. Fight." As the ship rose above the broken planet, the alien girl looked out the window. The horizon stretched endlessly, filled with uncertainty, but also with possibility. She thought of her people, of the war, of the lies she had been told. Humans were not just survivors. They were changers of worlds, shapers of fate, and teachers of courage. The human had risked everything for her, and she had risked everything for him. Together, they had survived storms, monsters, and fear itself. Together, they had learned trust, sacrifice, and hope. When they landed on the human ship, the rescue crew looked surprised to see an alien among them. Lyra raised her head high. She was no longer just a frightened girl of a feared species. She was a witness to the strength of humans, a bridge between worlds. The first reports of her survival would shock her people. She would tell them the truth, not of humans as enemies, but of humans as survivors, fighters, and protectors. The galaxy would hear a new story, one of courage, trust, and the power of the human spirit. Ethan helped her down from the ship. For a moment, they simply stood together, watching the alien world below. The storm was gone, but the memory remained sharp, unforgettable. Lyra smiled faintly. "You, human. Change, future." Ethan's eyes reflected the same understanding. "Together, we survive. Together, we strong." And in that moment, the bond between human and alien girl was more than survival. It was the start of a new future, one built on courage, hope, and the unstoppable power of human will. The storm had tried to break them. The alien world had tried to tear them apart. But in the end, it was human strength, resilient, fearless, and determined, that survived. The alien world was quiet now. The storm had long passed, leaving a landscape scarred but calm. Trees lay broken, metal structures twisted, and water pooled in deep craters. Yet, amidst the ruin, hope glimmered. Ethan and Lyra stood together on the high ridge, overlooking the terrain they had survived. They were no longer just survivors. They were warriors in a battle that had nothing to do with species or war. It was a battle for trust, courage, and understanding. The human ships had already left a landing team behind to repair the storm's damage and recover supplies. Lyra watched them work, noting how organized, careful, and efficient humans were even in chaos. It struck her again. Humans were not weak or selfish. They survived and thrived because of their determination, their adaptability, and their ability to work together. "I never see humans like this," Lyra whispered, her blue eyes reflecting both awe and respect. Ethan smiled faintly. "We survive. Always, but help each other. Stronger." The alien girl nodded. She had been taught her entire life to see humans as enemies. Now she saw truth. Humans did not rely on power or fear alone. They relied on courage, compassion, and willpower. Traits her people did not understand. Days passed. The two traveled carefully through the broken lands, reaching a high plateau where the wind was calm. Ethan taught Lyra basic survival skills, how to read the terrain, how to find safe water, and how to stay hidden from enemy patrols. She learned quickly, amazed at the humans' ability to teach and protect under pressure. At night, the alien girl spoke more about her species, their customs, and their beliefs. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions, learning too. She realized humans not only survived, they listened, adapted, and respected others. For the first time, she felt a bridge forming between her world and his. Then came the first signal from her people. Lyra froze. Her commanders were asking for her location. Her heart pounded. She could return and face judgment, or she could continue with the human who had shown her courage and trust beyond anything she had known. "I go with you," she said finally, her voice firm. Ethan nodded, proud but cautious. They were not safe yet. Her people might pursue them. They continued their journey, moving through valleys and broken terrain, avoiding patrols. Each step tested their trust, their courage, and their survival skills. Lyra noticed something she hadn't expected. She began to admire human determination. Even when afraid, Ethan acted. Even when tired, he led. Even when the world seemed against him, he refused to give up. One evening, as the sun set over the alien horizon, they reached a small plateau overlooking a human base. Ethan gestured toward it. "Safe. Here, rest. Recover." Lyra looked at the base, then at the horizon behind them. The alien world still held danger-storm beasts, hostile aliens, and unpredictable terrain, but for the first time, she felt hope that humans could survive it. She felt hope that together,